So I wanted to take a brief moment to talk about how we get stuck thinking and ruminating about the relationship we have with our ex. And this all really boils down to one fundamental truth about this type of situation: narcissistic divorce, narcissistic relationships, is they weren't really based on genuine emotion. Now, they were for you, but the problem is that it wasn't for the other person. So as soon as the relationship degrades to a point that they check out, it's over. Which means they're not sitting there thinking about you. They're not sitting there, worrying about what happened or reminiscing about the past. When they get to the point that it's done, it's done. Now, the hard part with that is we don't really operate that way, right? I mean, you may see that the relationship is degraded and you may realize that it's over, but you think that it's going to end in a mutual way that both of you have some type of, I don't know if fondness is the right word, but acknowledgement of the relationship. But when it turns around to where in an instant it's done and you don't mean anything to that person and it's like you never existed, it really messes with you because it doesn't make any sense. You're trying to you're looking at it going, well, wait a minute, you've had this relationship 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it is. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything, right? That's what you get stuck thinking. And then you're trying to analyze what happened. You're trying to analyze what went down and to figure it out. Now, bottom line is, it's the fact that they never really cared for you in a genuine way. It was all part of a manipulation to get what they wanted, to get that narcissistic supply from you. So even when you start to understand that, it still hurts. Yeah, even whenever you watch the videos, you talk with your therapist, you do the things that you need to do, and you fundamentally understand it, it still doesn't make sense. It still is really hard to wrap around your brain. Now, part of that is the trauma bonding and all the other little manipulative things that happen throughout the relationship to keep you tied to that person. But even with that, for you to sit there and go, it meant nothing, is really tough. And to be completely thrown away, right? I mean, you would think that, okay, fine, whatever, we can be friends. We can have a cordial relationship, and okay, so maybe the romantic relationship is done, but you have this history, you have these experiences, why can't you be able to at least acknowledge each other? What happens is you quickly realize that they've erased you out of their life. It doesn't mean anything to them. The bad part about this is, as you're sitting there waiting, if something happens where they decide that they want to try to regain that supply, they want to hoover, they want to do something, a lot of times you're so desperate for it that whenever they do come back around and maybe demonstrate some type of remorse or some type of sadness or some type of loss, that in your mind is validation that the relationship really did mean anything. The problem with a narcissistic type of person, somebody who's really high on that narcissistic scale, rolling into the cluster B personality disorders like narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, is those feelings aren't genuine. What they're doing is they're looking to regain supply. So what will happen is if they come back around and you're like, hey, see, I was wrong. All those things I thought about them weren't true. They really do care. It really did mean something. You feel vindicated that the relationship meant something. The problem is, what will happen is, as soon as they suck you back in, as soon as your guard falls back down, as soon as they feel like they have you, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to either start treating you the exact same way they treated you before, or worse, they'll ghost you again because they prove to themselves that they still have control over you, they still have control over your emotions. They got that fixed. They got what they needed from you, which is just that knowledge that they control your emotions. And then boom, they're on to something else. And then you're left devastated again, trying to figure everything out. Now, I understand that most of us are probably going to have to go through at least one iteration of this. I mean, if you're somebody who can look at this and say, okay, I got it figured out, and basically compartmentalize your thinking so where that's not tearing you up, then that's awesome for you. I think a lot of people struggle with that, even if they don't want to admit it. That I can, early on in my process, that absolutely was true. I thought that, externally, I was like, I'm disgusted with this person, I hate this person, but internally, I was completely torn up trying to figure it out, trying to run through my head, how can 22 plus years mean nothing? During the same course of time I was going through my thing, I had a few friends whose relationships and marriages almost fell apart, and they were able to come back together. There was a mutual respect, there was a mutual, genuine part of the relationship. They actually did really care about each other. They had a problem, but there was something there, so they both were able to work together. A narcissist won't do it because it isn't in their best interest. As soon as they feel that they've lost control over you, it doesn't matter anymore. So hopefully you don't have to go through that a couple of times. I think typically we have to prove to ourselves what we know. Once you figure this out and you think you know it, you're like still questioning yourself in your head, which is why I say absolute thinking is so important, to try to basically drill into your head what you do know is true. But I completely understand that a lot of people are going to have to, and this may be you, are going to have to go through this point to where they're like, well, I don't really believe it, let me test it. And that can be either on the relationship side, or it can even be with your kids. It's like, okay, they've been such a pain before, but I'm going to try to co-parent with them, or I'm going to try to share information, I'm going to try to compromise to see what happens, right? If when you do that, you keep getting the same thing, please try to take a note of that. I know it's painful. I know it hurts like hell. I mean, it is really tough whenever you're looking at somebody who you cared for, who you loved, who you would have done anything for, who you were trying to build a life with, to basically completely throw that away, gallivant on like nothing's like with no care in the world, which is the reason why everyone gets frustrated, because it's like, well, they have no consequences, there's no impact, they're just living their life doing their thing. The thing is, they don't have a genuine life, right? And since they don't have any true emotions or feeling towards things, none of this stuff bothers them. They're still living in that chaos. Don't be confused with their going around pretending that everything is wonderful is legit. Think about it. How can somebody be in a relationship for any period of time, a committed long-term relationship, and then turn it off in an instant? That is a serious indicator of a problem of character. So they may be with somebody else pretending like they're having a good time and pretending they're putting on that good face that they're having a genuine relationship, but it's all a facade. It's the same facade that you had with them, that whenever you believed everything was okay. And that's the problem is you look at it and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, I have this illusion that seemed real, and then it shut off, and this doesn't make any sense, and now they're repeating that illusion with somebody else. I mean, if you could take a step back and look at it, it makes sense. It still hurts like hell because you did care about the person. You did want to have a life with them. You did want to believe the story that they were telling you. Want to believe that fantasy was true. And it's tough. It is really hard to look at that situation, look at your life, look at the time that you invested in it, and realize it was all a facade. It was all smoke and mirrors. They were putting on a mask, and you wanted it so bad. I wanted it so bad that I believed it. So, it's really tough on this stuff because it's insidious how it just infects every part of our life. And then you can feel really frustrated that you're spending, the next part of your life trying to detoxify yourself from that experience, which is, in a lot of ways it's true. Are you going to ever wake up one day and completely have this person out of your mind? I think you're going to have better days. You'll get to the point to where it doesn't bother you. Then something will happen. You'll run into them. Somebody, some nice mutual friend will take it upon themselves to tell you how great they're doing or what's going on. And to be honest, even if they tell you that their life is a complete train wreck, it's still going to bother you. There isn't really a lot of peace in this. It's not like, you'll feel more than likely if someone says, oh yeah, their life is a train wreck, you'll be like, yeah, it's about right, karma, right? And then more than likely, because it permeates in your head, you'll start to ruminate about what could have been, why it happened, it didn't have to be this way, all this stuff. And it's all normal. That's all normal. So I just wanted to touch bases on this because I've seen in the comments in the last few days, last week, some people making comments that they're still really trapped and attached with their exes. And it's normal. And this takes time. This isn't a quick fix. You're not going to be able to flip a switch and turn it off. I mean, I know we'd all love to be able to do that, but it takes time to process it. It takes time to understand how you got into that position, how you were susceptible to this situation, and to work on yourself to make yourself, better, for lack of a better word. And so if you're in the process where if I'm talking to you and this is your story and you're feel like you're trapped, it just takes time. And when I say time, unfortunately it's a significant amount of time. I think it took me a couple of years to really start to get better on this. Really? A couple of years? It doesn't even make sense. You're dealing with you would think dealing with a nightmare and dealing with the issue of trying to co-parent and just all that crap, that it would be enough to burrow into my head to prove my point that I'm better off. And it'd be awesome if it worked that way. It would be awesome if we could turn around and go, whoa, wow, I dodged a bullet. Thank God that happened. But it doesn't work that way, because you actually did care about this person. It did mean something, and you didn't get closure, and you don't get any answers on how it can just stop in an instant. Well, you do have the answers, because as you learn about narcissistic personality disorder and these type of people, you realize that that's exactly how they operate. There's no true emotion there, so it's easy for them to cut off because it doesn't matter. You served a purpose, and now your purpose is no longer needed. I served a purpose, I'm no longer needed. My purpose now is money, right? There's nothing else. There's no co-parenting, there's no cooperation, there's no trying to set an environment that's positive for the kids. What I will say in my situation, now that I put my boundaries up, she's been able to flip the story to where now it looks like I'm the one being difficult, and she's ready and willing to co-parent and participate and everything if I was just ready to do it. But it's just so sad that I won't. Now, anybody going through this knows that you don't have a choice. You either put yourself in the middle of these emotional nightmares and these emotional roller coasters and subject yourself to this covert narcissistic abuse, or you set your boundaries, you don't allow them into your space, and you keep them out. And I struggled with that for the longest time, trying to figure out how to balance that. Now it's like the priority is my sanity, the next priority is the environment for my kids. Everything else is secondary. I tried many times to try to interact with her, and it was always the same thing. Like I was just talking about earlier, you're gonna see these patterns repeat. They might modify a little bit to suck you back in, but then they're gonna turn around and do the exact same thing. So if you're struggling with this, you're gonna get through this. It's not easy. Please seek out other avenues of support. Try to find a good therapist who understands this type of abuse. Trauma therapists typically appear to be more skilled in that. Read books, follow different YouTube channels. Find things that speak to you to help you understand it, to help you get through it. I really wish that this was one of those things where you could find that magic pill and everything clicks back into place and you're fine. It doesn't work that way. You have to process the emotions. You have to process, like I said, how you got there, what happened, where did you come from to get to the point that you were blinded by everything that was happening and you're still attached to it. More than likely, it's because you still have an attachment of being treated like that way from when you were a kid. I know that's a big issue with me. So, all right, on that, hopefully you're doing okay. Take it easy on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. When things aren't going as fast as you would like and hope, just understand that this is a very difficult process to go through. It's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever experience. I think a death would be easier. But when you have somebody who's still there, who's basically ignoring you or not acknowledging you, it doesn't make any sense. So So be kind to yourself. Know that you're going to be able to get through this. It just takes time. Look for the good days, because good days, good moments, whatever it is, to see how you're growing on this, and just keep pushing through. All right, on that, if you have some stories about how you've been able to deal with this and how you went through it, like for me, it's a couple of years that I was dealing with this, put it in the comments below. I think it really helps when people can see other people who've gone through similar things at similar stages as they are, and they can look at it and go, oh, okay, so it sucks, right? But this isn't how my life's going to be forever. I think it could be helpful. And if you're struggling with it, put it down in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, please subscribe. And if you haven't had a chance to go over to the Dad's Probably Divorced website and sign up for the newsletter and just check things out over there, check out the resource tab. There's a lot of good information there. And I'll chat with you on the next video. Take care.